We need to build upon our oil and gas expertise to more broadly energy and technology. I think City Hall needs to get out of the way of entrepreneurs, new ideas, and disruptive technologies, and allow for an opportunity for entrepreneurs to succeed.
We need to focus on small businesses. We also need to attract new industry to the city. With small businesses, we need to make sure it's easy for them to start up, removing obstacles along that way. We should also look into creative ways to have them network with each other to share ideas and best practices. We should also look for ways to attract people to the city. And this means having a strong arts and culture, it means having a great transit and cycling network, as well as having good recreation and diverse housing.
Well, my immediate answer is to get out of the way of entrepreneurs who want to make a successful living here in Calgary. We can support the Calgary Economic Development Group, and we can also make sure that our levies, permitting, and taxes don't increase the cost of doing business in Calgary.
One of the things that I see in our city right now is we have a bit of a void in the manufacturing aspect. We have a lot of really strong, obviously, oil field stuff that's suffering right now, and if we were to try and develop a little bit of diversity in the economy, we're going to have to look at how to bring other types of industry into Calgary to make it diverse, to make it more sustainable, and that in and of itself, we have to, as a city council, make sure that we're balancing the needs of everyone in Calgary and not just the business people. So if the people are suffering as well, it has to be a balanced approach.
I would really like to support locally operated and locally owned businesses as much as possible. They're a very significant source of employment in our city. And then all the way up to the really big businesses. Of course, Amazon HQ2 is top of mind for a lot of folks in the city. That has been, I think, a wonderful invitation to think about and to be reminded of the importance of investing in our community infrastructure. Because if we're going to attract and retain business and talent from the world over, we've got to make sure that we're selling our city as a good place to do business, but then also a really good place to live.
The Chamber of Commerce has done a very thorough document on the cost of doing business in Calgary, and they've already identified 4 different departments that the average cost in Calgary is out of line compared to other cities in Canada. So I'd start with those areas already identified by fellow Calgarians as needing attention. And the other thing I would do is I would ask for a thorough review of our reserve accounts. There's $1.8 billion sitting in savings accounts at City Hall. Now, several of those accounts have designated purposes, but is there cash there that we can use until we get our other expenses into line?
I want lower taxes. We all do. But there's another side to that equation that we have got to talk about, and that is what we're willing to give up. And I want to have that conversation with Calgarians. I want to hear from the constituents of Ward 11 on what they'd be willing to compromise on when it comes to services, because we can't keep taxes low, we can't keep density low and maintain the same kinds of services. Something's got to give, and I think that we can be fiscally prudent. Want to make sure that we see value for your tax dollars, but at the end of the day, we can't have it all.
The quality of service is the must, and I think everybody in Calgary would resonate with that. If we're looking at cutting services, we can't be cutting the quality of it. If we're looking at something that needs to be saved, we should be having a look at where the people are getting the need, or the need is being satisfied by the service, and how much it's costing. One of the things, though, as with any large entity that's been high on the cash flow for quite some time, you have to have a look inside and see, okay, what are we doing that might be a little bit too wasteful? Are we over-managing ourselves? Are we not providing the service where we should? And I think that we're due for that, I'm sure of that.
By doing more with the same, like a lot of families and businesses are doing. We spend a lot of money on things that frankly no Calgarians would notice if they were gone. I think that we need to better embrace innovation and technology, as well as better listen to Calgarians about what they want more or less of.
Taxes and services is always a challenge. The city, I think, has been doing quite a lot of work in terms of trying to find efficiencies leading into this budget. We need to continue to do that. There's different methods within the city and processes that we can streamline that'll ultimately make it easier for us to get work done. We also need to look at how we grow as a city. We need to, for long-term taxes, we need to make sure that we are growing in a smart and thoughtful way.
don't feel that we as taxpayers should be contributing to that. This entity, as a business, has been in Calgary making money for quite some time, and most other large sport business enterprises, when it comes time to expand, they can get the funding they need through private resource and pay it back and do the growth on their own. I'm a small businessman. I'd love to have free cash in order to expand, but it just really doesn't happen.
The arena is very important to Calgary. As a city, we need to have the facilities to maintain our population, to encourage people to move here, and to encourage businesses to come to Calgary. So the arena is part of the fabric of who we are. When I'm door knocking, I have people saying who are sports fans, it's got to be there. We need facilities for sports in Calgary. And then I also speak with moms who say sports is so important to my children of all ages and different types of sports that we have to maintain our sporting culture here in Calgary.
I want to be really clear about the relationship that I think that the city has with the Flames and the Calgary Sports and Entertainment Corporation. There's a valuable partnership there. The Flames are good for Calgary and Calgary are good for the Flames. But what I think is most important to communicate is that I have to make a decision that is best for the citizens of Calgary. We can't embark on this initiative risking a loss to the city. It has to be profitable, it has to benefit our community, and it has to benefit all citizens. And so I support the arena, I support public dollars going towards that, but I can't endorse a blank check. I think the negotiations that have been revealed are reasonable, they're fair, and would really like to see those start up again in good faith.
I struggle with the idea of putting public dollars into private business. However, I realize the importance of having an arena and the potential for growth in the Victoria Park area. That said, I think the recent offer released by the City of Calgary was quite fair overall, perhaps even generous. I am concerned with the Flames ownership group's concerns around the surcharge. I think that's a fair way to get some of the costs covered. I'm also concerned about going into a community revitalization levy because I don't know if we have the ability within East Village and Victoria Park to amass the money that we need to fund the arena.
You know, whether it's Amazon, the Flames, or a two-person startup, I think that Calgary always needs to be open for business and that we need to diversify, especially in a post-oil economy. Specifically, though, I think that it can be done with private money, but with the city playing a facilitating role.
So there's a lot on the go. I think, though, if I was to say one big issue, it's certainly around planning and development, both from a private developer's side, but then also from an infrastructure perspective. And so some of the things that are happening down in the southwest around expanding our roadways to accommodate for the ring road that's going to be constructed, certainly the Southwest BRT has been on the top of mind for a lot of folks. And then there are some significant planning and development projects that are coming up across the ward. My responsibility as councillor to the constituents of Ward 11 is to ensure that they have information early and often with any of these proposals that are coming through. It's really not a question of yes or no, but where and how. And are we ensuring that engagement is meaningful, it's accessible, and in this case, more is not necessarily better.
It's a demographic concern in the ward. We have a lot of senior people. And right across the city, I don't think we've done a very good job of creating environments that allow seniors to live where they've lived through their middle adulthood. We need to definitely address how it is that we're going to focus on that coming up. All over the city, we're going to need to be able to look at how we can keep the full demographic of our city alive and well and relevant within our communities.
Wasteful spending. Specifically, though, there's a lack of listening and there's a lack of vision about very important future issues like transportation, flood mitigation, and economic diversification. We're always responding in crisis mode, and crisis mode is expensive. We need to be more proactive and more data-driven to allow Calgary to be safer, more affordable, and to better allow for business to succeed in Ward 11.
Well, to begin with, Ward 11 is an incredibly complex ward. On the north boundary, it's the railroad tracks by Fort Calgary, and on the south, it's Anderson Road. The ward goes from the city limits on the west to Deerfoot Trail on the east. So it depends which community you're in. The top issues differ according to community. For some communities, it's flood mitigation. For other communities, it's secondary suites. And for other communities, it's transportation planning. Overall, though, throughout the entire ward, it's property taxes and how taxpayers' dollars are being spent, and Calgarians are asking for value for money.
Ward 11 is vast from north to south, and there's a diverse amount of communities in it. So the main issue that I've seen radiate across the communities is growth and development. We have a lot of new transportation infrastructure developments, big ones coming, and a lot of development of various sizes through the community. So we need to make sure that those are happening that optimize what's there. We need to look beyond the development and look at the connection pieces, making sure that there's pedestrian access, that there's access to recreation around those, and ultimately make sure it works for the community and the people that live there.